The Nexus station floated in the neutral zone between three star systems, a chrome and glass testament to interspecies cooperation. Or at least that's what the tourist brochures claimed. In reality, it was a sprawling maze of bars, gambling dens, and black market vendors where the galaxy's most interesting characters came to forget their problems. Ambassador Zek'tar of the Hegemony Council adjusted his ceremonial robes as he glided through the station's main corridor on his anti-gravity platform. His 4 eyes swept the crowds with barely concealed disgust. Humans had been granted preliminary membership to the galactic community just 6 months ago, and already their influence was concerning. The integration assessment is proceeding as expected, he reported into his quantum communicator. The humans show typical primitive aggression markers. Their emotional instability makes them unsuitable for advanced civilization protocols. Zek'tar's species, the Veltar, had evolved past physical conflict millennia ago. Violence was solved through mental discipline and technological superiority. The humans, with their crude biology and unpredictable nature, represented everything the hegemony sought to eliminate from civilized space. Maintain observation protocols, came the reply. Document any incidents for the final assessment. The ambassador entered Gravity's End, the station's most notorious establishment. The bar catered to dozens of species, with atmospheric controls adjusted for each section. Humans, he noted with distaste, preferred the section with Earth-normal gravity and an unfiltered oxygen mix that reeked of organic compounds. At a corner table sat Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance Navy, nursing what appeared to be fermented grain alcohol. Her dress uniform was crisp despite being 3 days into shore leave, her dark hair pulled back in regulation style. To Zek'tar's sensors, she radiated the controlled tension typical of human military personnel. Fascinating, he murmured, activating his recording implants. Subject exhibits typical human hypervigilance. Note the constant environmental scanning, the defensive posturing. Clearly a species shaped by perpetual warfare. What Zek'tar didn't understand was that Sarah wasn't being hypervigilant. She was homesick. The whiskey reminded her of her father's bar in New Shanghai, where she'd learned to tend bar before joining the Navy. She was thinking about Earth's autumn leaves, real rain, and gravity that didn't come from spinning machinery. 3 tables away, a group of Kryllian pirates were getting rowdy. Their reptilian frames towered over most patrons, and their translator implants turned their hissing speech into crude threats about soft mammals and easy prey. The Kryllians had a reputation for testing newcomer species, and humans were still very much newcomers. Sarah noticed them, of course. Hard not to, given they were loudly discussing which human appendages might be worth the most on the black market. But she'd been ordered to maintain diplomatic protocols. No incidents. No international, interstellar complications. The human female shows signs of distress, Zek'tar recorded. Typical fight-or-flight response activation. Primitive nervous system overriding rational thought. In reality, Sarah was calculating. 7 Kryllians armed with plasma cutters that weren't quite concealed. Station security was notably absent, probably bought off or intimidated. The other patrons were giving the pirates a wide berth, which meant this was a regular occurrence. She finished her whiskey and stood to leave. Leaving already, little mammal? The largest Kryllian, a scarred brute named SSK Thak, stepped into her path. We were just discussing human anatomy. Very educational. I'm sure, Sarah replied evenly. Excuse me. No excuse for you. SSK Thak's mandibles clicked in amusement. Your species owes us compensation. You took 3 of our ships in the Proxima incident. That was pirates attacking a civilian transport. The Earth Alliance Navy responded appropriately. Appropriately? Another Kryllian flanked her. You destroyed property worth millions of credits. Sarah could feel the entire bar watching. First contact protocols demanded she de-escalate. Walk away. File a complaint through proper diplomatic channels. Wait 6 months for a committee to issue a strongly worded letter. But Sarah Chen hadn't joined the Navy to watch bullies operate with impunity. Your property was shooting at unarmed civilians, she said. not moving from the Kryllian's blocking formation. "I'd do it again." Zek'tar leaned forward in fascination. The human was clearly outmatched, 7 against 1, with superior reach and natural weaponry. Any rational being would submit or flee. But her biometric readings showed something unexpected. Her stress indicators were dropping, not rising. Bold words from prey. Zek'tar hissed, flexing claws designed to rend flesh. "Let's see how bold you are without your warship." The first Kryllian lunged. What happened next would be analyzed by xenobiologists across the galaxy for decades to come. Sarah didn't dodge the Kryllian's lunge. She stepped into it, grabbed the extended arm, and used the alien's momentum to send him crashing into the bar with a sound like breaking crystal. Before the others could react, she'd spun and driven her elbow into the second attacker's solar plexus, dropping him gasping to the deck. "Impossible," Zek'tar breathed, his recording implants working overtime. Human musculature shouldn't generate sufficient force to. The third Kryllian swiped with claws that could shred duraplast. Sarah twisted away from the strike, grabbed a chair, and brought it down on the alien's head hard enough to splinter the synthetic wood. The Kryllian staggered, more surprised than hurt. "She's using improvised weapons," Zek'tar recorded frantically. "Environmental adaptation in real time. But this level of spatial awareness, the reaction times." Sarah had grabbed a bottle from the bar and shattered it against the fourth Kryllian's skull, then drove the jagged remains toward his throat. The alien barely got an arm up in time, receiving deep cuts across his forearm instead of a severed carotid artery. The other patrons were backing away, creating a circle around the fight. Some were cheering. Others were placing bets. Zek'tar roared and charged, all pretense of dignity abandoned. Sarah waited until the last second, then dropped flat and swept his legs. The Kryllian's own momentum sent him crashing into his companions, creating a tangle of limbs and fury. "The human is... she's winning," Zek'tar whispered in disbelief. It wasn't just that Sarah was winning, it was how she was winning. Every move was calculated, efficient, and absolutely ruthless. She targeted joints, pressure points, and vulnerabilities with surgical precision. When a Kryllian tried to bite her, she jammed her fingers into his mouth and pressed down on his tongue until he gagged and released her. The sixth Kryllian produced a plasma cutter and ignited it, filling the air with the smell of ionized gas. Sarah grabbed a metal tray from a nearby table and used it as a shield, the plasma scoring deep gouges in the duralloy surface. She closed distance, deflecting another strike, then brought the tray's edge down on the alien's wrist with a crack that echoed through the bar. The plasma cutter clattered to the deck. Sarah kicked it away and headbutted the Kryllian hard enough to break his nose ridge. 7 elite Kryllian warriors, Zek'tar recorded, his voice barely steady. Defeated by a single human female. This isn't possible. Their bone density alone should make them immune to. Zek'tar was back on his feet, ichor streaming from a cut on his forehead. He pulled a wicked curved knife, the kind Kryllians used for ritual challenges. "Enough games, mammal. Time to bleed." Sarah looked at the knife, then at the 7 aliens she'd just systematically dismantled. Her uniform was torn, her knuckles were bleeding, and she had the beginning of what would be a spectacular black eye. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who just realized her prey was more dangerous than expected, and was looking forward to the challenge. "You know what?" she said, wiping blood from her split lip. "I was having a really bad week. Thanks for giving me something to focus on." The knife came up in a practice thrust aimed at her midsection. Sarah sidestepped, caught the alien's wrist, and twisted until she heard bones crack. Zek'tar screamed and dropped the blade. Sarah caught it before it hit the deck. The bar fell silent except for the wheeze of injured Kryllians trying to breathe. Sarah stood in the center of the devastation, holding Zek'tar's ritual blade with the casual competence of someone who'd been trained in 17 different fighting styles across 6 gravity environments. "This is not how prey behaves," Zek'tar whispered into his communicator. "I'm observing impossible biometric readings. The human's heart rate has actually decreased during combat. Her neural activity shows patterns consistent with with predator instincts. Around the bar, other patrons were reassessing everything they thought they knew about humans. The Altarian merchants were quietly canceling plans to raid human shipping lanes. The Draconis delegation was rapidly recalculating military assessments. Even the bartender, a grizzled Centauri veteran who'd seen 3 galactic wars, was looking at Sarah with something approaching respect. SSK cradled his broken wrist against his chest, green ichor seeping through his fingers. "This isn't over, mammal." "Yes, it is," Sarah said quietly. She reversed the knife and offered it back to him hilt first. "Take your crew and leave. Don't make me ask twice." The gesture stunned everyone watching. She'd won. Decisively. Brutally. And now she was showing mercy to an enemy who just threatened to kill her. "The human is displaying contradictory behavioral patterns," Zek'tar recorded. Extreme aggression followed immediately by mercy. This makes no strategic sense. But it made perfect sense to Sarah. Violence was a tool, not an end goal. The objective had been to stop the threat, not to maximize casualties. Besides, dead Kryllians would create a diplomatic incident. Humiliated ones would just spread word that humans weren't easy prey. SSK stared at the offered weapon for a long moment, then slowly took it back. "This isn't finished between our species," he hissed. "Maybe not," Sarah agreed. "But it's finished between us. For now." The Kryllians gathered their wounded and limped toward the exit. As they reached the door, SSK turned back. "What are you? Your kind looks so soft. Weak. How do you fight like that?" Sarah considered the question. Around the bar, dozens of aliens were listening intently. First contact protocol suggested she should give some diplomatic answer about human diversity and peaceful intentions. Instead, she told the truth. "We're not the strongest species in the galaxy," she said. "Not the fastest or the smartest or the most technologically advanced. But we've been fighting each other for our entire evolutionary history. Every human alive is descended from survivors of 10,000 years of warfare." She gestured to her torn uniform, her bruised knuckles. This is Tuesday for us. We fight wars that last generations over patches of dirt that aren't worth the blood spilled for them. We fight in jungles and deserts and frozen wastes that would kill most species just by existing there. We fight outnumbered, outgunned, and we keep fighting until either we win or there's no one left to fight. The bar was dead silent. "So when 7 pirates corner 1 human in a bar," Sarah continued, "that's not a fight. That's barely a warm-up exercise." She finished her statement by calmly walking to the bar and ordering another whiskey, as if she hadn't just redefined how the galaxy thought about humanity. Zek'tar was frantically updating his files. "Council, I'm going to need to completely revise the assessment. The humans aren't primitively violent. They're evolutionarily optimized for combat. This changes everything about integration protocols." Behind him, a small crowd was forming around Sarah. Not threatening, curious. A Rigelian trader was buying her drinks. A vegan diplomat was asking about human military doctrine. Even a few Altarians were respectfully inquiring about Earth's martial arts traditions. The fight had lasted less than 3 minutes. But in those 3 minutes, humanity's reputation in the galaxy had shifted from weak newcomers to species you definitely don't want to fight. The bartender, a weathered Centauri named Grak, slid Sarah's whiskey across the bar. "On the house," he growled. "Haven't seen a fight like that since the Hegemony War." "Thanks." Sarah sipped her drink and winced as the alcohol hit her split lip. "Though technically, I'm supposed to be on my best behavior. Diplomatic protocols and all." Grak's laugh was like grinding stone. "Honey, that was diplomacy. You could have killed all 7 of them in the first 30 seconds. Everyone here knows it." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "How would you know?" "Because I was watching your eyes," the old alien said quietly. "You weren't fighting angry. You were fighting surgical. Every strike calculated for maximum effect with minimum permanent damage. That's not rage, kid. That's artistry." News of the bar fight spread through the Nexus station within hours. By the next morning, it had reached the Hegemony Council chambers, where Ambassador Zek'tar stood before the assembled leaders of 47 species. The preliminary assessment was incomplete, he began, his usual composure shattered. We fundamentally misunderstood the nature of human aggression. High Chancellor Mordak of the Altarian Empire leaned forward, his crystalline features reflecting the chamber's lights. Explain your revised findings, Ambassador. Zek'tar activated a holographic display showing Sarah's fight from multiple angles. What we interpreted as primitive violence is actually sophisticated combat optimization. Observe the human's tactical awareness, the precise application of force, the real-time adaptation to multiple threats. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as Sarah systematically dismantled 7 opponents who individually outweighed her by 50% and possessed natural weapons. This level of combat effectiveness suggests their entire species has been shaped by selective pressure toward warfare, Zek'tar continued. They're not randomly violent, they're precision instruments of organized destruction. Fleet Admiral Kesare of the Draconis hierarchy spoke up. Our intelligence suggested humans were divided into competing nation-states, constantly warring among themselves. We assumed this made them weak. We were wrong, Zek'tar replied grimly. It made them stronger. Every human has been evolutionarily selected for combat effectiveness across multiple generations of conflict. They don't just know how to fight, they've been bred for it. The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. Species that had been planning to exploit humanity's apparent weakness suddenly found themselves reconsidering. The galaxy's power structure, carefully maintained for millennia, was about to shift dramatically. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Rebecca Torres was receiving very different reports about the same incident. Commander Chen sat across from her desk, still sporting a magnificent black eye and split lip. So let me get this straight, Torres said, reviewing the incident report. 7 Kryllian pirates started a fight with you. You defended yourself. They lost. And now half the galaxy wants to either recruit us or declare war on us. That's an accurate summary, Admiral. Torres shook her head. Sarah, you were supposed to be on diplomatic duty. Keep a low profile. Don't create incidents. I didn't create anything, Sarah protested. They attacked me. I responded proportionally. Proportionally? You put 3 of them in the medical bay. They'll live. That was proportional. Torres couldn't argue with that logic. The official reports made it clear the Kryllians had initiated hostilities and threatened a human officer. Sarah had every right to defend herself. What Torres was really struggling with was the broader implications. Earth's military had always known humans were effective fighters. They'd been proving that against each other for millennia. But apparently, the rest of the galaxy hadn't gotten the memo. Admiral, Sarah said carefully, there's something else you should know. After the fight, I had conversations with representatives from dozens of species. Trade delegations, military observers, diplomatic corps. They're all asking the same questions. What kind of questions? About human military doctrine, our training methods, whether we'd be interested in security contracts. Sarah paused. Admiral, I think we've accidentally positioned ourselves as the galaxy's enforcers. Torres leaned back in her chair, considering the ramifications. Humanity had been struggling to find their place in galactic society. They weren't the most technologically advanced species, or the most economically developed. But apparently they had one critical advantage. Everyone else was scared of them. How scared? Torres asked. Sarah pulled up a datapad. The Kryllian Syndicate has issued a formal apology for the misunderstanding and offered reparations. The Altarian Empire wants to discuss mutual defense pacts. 3 different species have submitted requests for human military advisors. Torres whistled softly. All because of one bar fight? One very public bar fight in front of representatives from most of the major galactic powers, Sarah corrected. Admiral, I don't think they realized we were warriors. I think they thought we were just farmers, merchants, soft civilians playing at space exploration. The communication console chimed with an incoming priority message. Torres accepted it, and the hologram of Galactic Mediator Prime Velthok appeared, one of the most powerful beings in known space. Admiral Torres, the ancient being intoned. The Hegemony Council would like to discuss humanity's role in galactic peacekeeping operations. Are you available for immediate consultation? Torres and Sarah exchanged glances. The galaxy's most powerful alliance wanted to discuss peacekeeping. Less than 48 hours after a human had beaten 7 pirates unconscious in a bar. I believe we have an opening in our schedule, Torres replied diplomatically. 6 months later, Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Determination, watching a Hegemony fleet conduct joint training exercises with Earth Alliance vessels. The irony wasn't lost on her. A bar fight had accomplished more for human-alien relations than 2 years of formal diplomacy. Remarkable how quickly things change, observed Ambassador Zek'tar. Approaching from behind, the Veltar diplomat had requested this meeting personally. Sarah turned to face him. Ambassador, I wasn't expecting you. I wanted to apologize, Zek'tar said simply. My initial assessment of your species was deeply flawed. You weren't entirely wrong, Sarah admitted. We are violent by galactic standards. No, Zek'tar corrected. You're effective by any standards. There's a crucial difference. Through the observation port, they watched human and alien vessels executing complex maneuvers in perfect synchronization. The sight would have been impossible a year ago, when most species viewed humanity as primitive newcomers. The Draconis hierarchy withdrew their territorial claims on the Proxima system, Zek'tar noted. The Kryllian Syndicate has ceased all raiding operations in human space. The Altarian Empire is paying us to patrol their trade routes. Fear is a powerful motivator, Sarah observed. It's not fear, Zek'tar said thoughtfully. It's respect. We've all been fighting our wars with the same tactics for millennia. Massive fleets, overwhelming technology, economic pressure. You showed us something different. What's that? Efficiency. Precision, the ability to end conflicts quickly and decisively. Zek'tar gestured toward the fleet exercises. Do you know what the other species call human military doctrine now? Sarah shook her head. Surgical violence, the ability to apply exactly the right amount of force, at exactly the right point, to achieve your objectives with minimal collateral damage. The ambassador's 4 eyes regarded her with something approaching admiration. It's terrifying and reassuring simultaneously. A communication alert chimed through the ship. Admiral Torres' voice echoed through the speakers. All hands, prepare for jump to the Vega system. The Hegemony Council has requested our assistance with a piracy situation. Sarah and Zek'tar exchanged knowing looks. 6 months ago, the Hegemony Council would have handled pirates with a massive fleet action, months of negotiations, and enough bureaucracy to choke a star whale. Now they called humans. Commander Chen to the bridge, Torres continued. We have another diplomatic situation requiring your particular expertise. Sarah grinned. The same predatory smile that had terrified 7 Kryllians in a bar 6 months ago. Duty calls, Ambassador. Indeed it does, Zek'tar agreed. Commander, might I offer some advice? Always welcome. The next time someone underestimates humanity, the diplomat said seriously, remind them that your species turned a bar fight into a galactic peacekeeping contract. That should give them pause. Sarah headed toward the bridge, leaving Zek'tar alone with his thoughts. The ambassador accessed his personal files and opened the report that had changed everything. The analysis of those 3 minutes of controlled chaos in Gravity's End. The conclusion still gave him chills. Humans are not warriors because they are violent. They are warriors because they are survivors. Every tactical decision, every combat adaptation, every strategic innovation has been shaped by 10,000 years of evolutionary pressure toward one simple goal: victory at any cost. The galaxy assumed this made them primitive. In reality, it makes them the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. Not because they will destroy everything, but because they have the capability to do so and the wisdom not to. Recommendation: full integration into the Hegemony Council with immediate elevation to Tier 1 status. Humanity doesn't need our protection, we need theirs. As the Determination jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward another diplomatic situation, Zek'tar couldn't help but smile. The bar fight that everyone thought would embarrass humanity had instead elevated them to the galactic elite. And somewhere in the depths of space, pirates and warlords were learning a hard lesson. You don't pick fights with humans. Not because they're stronger or faster or more advanced than you, but because they're better at it.